Michelle Bachman. Michelle Bachman. Well, she's now complaining that President Obama just might restrict freedom of speech because he supports Islam. This is part of what she said on a radio show. Not just verbal speech, but written, a cartoon, a painting, whatever it is. If it's in any way construed as being against Islam, that is where the confrontation comes from the Islamist world, and they want to stop anyone in the world from saying anything negative about Islam. Which means there is only one free speech right, and that would belong to the Islamists. Everyone else would lose their right of speech and expression. The reason why this is important is because this is the whole game. It's game over if we, who are not in the non-Islamist world, would lose the rights to criticize what the Islamist does, because the Islamist tries to advocate Islamic Sharia law, and so anything that we would say in the future, once you criminalize anti-Islamic speech, anything that we would say that would be critical in any way of anything Islam does would be considered criminalized. That's why I say it is game over. The Islamists will have won everything. That's why they are willing to put 10 years into achieving this objective of silencing any form of dissent to Islam. Her main concern, basically, is a United Nations resolution, Resolution 1618, which Hillary Clinton signed. And this apparently terrifies her. I don't think she's read it, or perhaps, well, she's not too bright. Maybe she didn't understand it. So let's take a look at it. Resolution adopted by the Human Rights Council, 1618, combating intolerance, negative stereotyping, and stigmatization of and discrimination incident to violence and violence against persons based on religion or belief. The Human Rights Council, reaffirming the commitment made by all states under the Charter of the United Nations to promote and encourage universal respect for and observance of all human rights and fundamental freedoms, without distinction as to, inter alia, religion or belief. Reaffirming also the obligation of states to prohibit discrimination on the basis of religion or belief, and to implement measures to guarantee the equal and effective protection of the law. Reaffirming further that the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights provides, inter alia, that everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion or belief, which shall include freedom to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice, and freedom either individually or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in worship, observance, practice, and teaching. Reaffirming the positive rule that the exercise of the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and the full respect for the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information can play in strengthening democracy and combating religious intolerance. Deeply concerned about incidents of intolerance, discrimination, and violence against persons based on their religion or belief in all regions of the world. Deploring any advocacy of discrimination or violence on the basis of religion or belief. Strongly deploring all acts of violence against persons on the basis of their religion or belief, as well as any such acts directed against their homes, business properties, schools, cultural centers, or places of worship. Concerned about actions that willfully exploit tensions or target individuals on the basis of their religion or belief. Noting with deep concern the instances of intolerance, discrimination, and acts of violence in many parts of the world, including cases motivated by discrimination against persons belonging to religious minorities, in addition to the negative projection of the followers of religions and the enforcement of measures that specifically discriminate against persons on the basis of religion or belief. Recognizing the valuable contribution of people of all religions or beliefs to humanity, and the contribution that dialogue amongst religious groups can make towards an improved awareness and understanding of the common values shared by all humankind. Recognizing also that working together to enhance implementation of existing legal regimes that protect individuals against discrimination and hate crimes, increase interfaith and intercultural efforts, and to expand human rights education are important first steps in combating incidences of intolerance, discrimination, and violence against individuals on the basis of religion or belief. 1. Expresses deep concern at the continued serious instances of derogatory stereotyping, negative profiling, and stigmatization of persons based on their religion or belief, as well as programs and agendas pursued by extremist organizations and groups aimed at creating and perpetuating negative stereotypes about religious groups, in particular when condoned by governments. 2. Expresses its concern that incidences of religious intolerance, discrimination, and related violence, as well as of negative stereotyping of individuals on the basis of religion or belief, continue to rise around the world, and condemns in this context any advocacy of religious hatred against individuals that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence, and urges states to take effective measures as set forth in the present resolution, consistent with their obligations under international human rights law to address and combat such incidences. Condemns any advocacy of religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence, whether it involves the use of print, audiovisual, or electronic media, or any other means. 4. Recognizes that the open public debate of ideas, as well as interfaith and intercultural dialogue at the local, national, and international levels, can be among the best protections against religious intolerance and can play a positive role in strengthening democracy and combating religious hatred, and convinced that continuing dialogue on these issues can help overcome existing misperceptions. 5. Notes a speech given by Secretary General of the Organization of the Islamic Conference at the 15th session of the Human Rights Council and draws on his call on states to take the following actions to foster a domestic environment of religious tolerance, peace, and respect by A. Encouraging the creation of collaborative networks to build mutual understanding, promoting dialogue, and inspiring constructive action toward shared policy goals and the pursuit of tangible outcomes, such as servicing projects in the fields of education, health, conflict prevention, employment integration, and media education. B. Creating an appropriate mechanism within governments to, inter alia, identify and address potential areas of tension between members of different religious communities, and assisting with conflict prevention and mediation. C. Encouraging training of government officials in effective outreach strategies. D. Encouraging the efforts of leaders to discuss within their communities the causes of discrimination and evolving strategies to counter these causes. E. Speaking out against intolerance, including advocacy of religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility, or violence. F. Adopting measures to criminalize incitement to imminent violence based on religion or belief. G. Understanding the need to combat denigration and negative religious stereotyping of persons, as well as incitement to religious hatred, by strategizing and harmonizing actions at the local, regional, and international levels through inter alia, education, and awareness building. H. Recognizing that the open, constructive, and respectful debate of ideas, as well as interfaith and intercultural dialogue at the local, national, and international levels, can play a positive role in combating religious hatred, incitement, and violence. 6. Calls upon all states, A. To take effective measures to ensure that public functionaries in the conduct of their public duties do not discriminate against an individual on the basis of religion or belief. B. To foster religious freedom and pluralism by promoting the ability of members of all religious communities to manifest their religion and to contribute openly and on an equal footing to society. C. To encourage the representation and meaningful participation of individuals, irrespective of their religion, in all sectors of society. D. To make a strong effort to counter religious profiling, which is understood to be the invidious use of religion as a criterion in conducting questionings, searches, and other law enforcement investigative procedures. 7. Encourages states to consider providing updates on efforts made in this regard as part of ongoing reporting to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. 8. Calls upon states to adopt measures and policies to promote the full respect for and protection of places of worship and religious sites, cemeteries, and shrines, and to take measures in cases where they are vulnerable to vandalism or destruction. 9. Calls for strengthened international efforts to foster a global dialogue for the promotion of a culture of tolerance and peace at all levels based on respect for human rights and diversity of religions and beliefs, and decides to convene a panel discussion on this issue at its 17th session within existing resources. That's it. That's what terrifies Michelle Bachman and so many others. I would think they'd support it. There are Christians around the world who are discriminated against. Many of them face violence frequently. Many of them faced violence from just local residents, their own neighbors, and the authorities will do nothing about it because they're Christian. People can go to prison for expressing their Christian beliefs. What this document does is it says we don't want that to happen in this world. We want there to be religious tolerance, religious understanding, and acceptance of different beliefs. And you may have noticed as I was reading, it also talked about ideas. So this document actually supports atheists around the world. It's not just about religion. Now, it is true that the one part of this says that it was, let me see if I can find the actual part, but it was prompted by someone who was Muslim. Yet there's nothing in that section that specifically speaks to Sharia law or giving preference to Islam. On the contrary, it's saying we don't want to give any preferences to anyone. And in this one section, let me go back to this, it says, reaffirming further that the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights provides, inter alia, that everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion or belief. This is one of the sections that I was pointing out that actually supports atheists around the world. Freedom of thought, conscience, and religion or belief. It doesn't say freedom of thought, conscience, for religion or belief. It says and religion or belief. The only part that says anything about punishing someone refers to the imminent, I forget the section exactly, but the imminent danger that certain kinds of speech can cause. We already have that here. You cannot incite people to violence. We already have that law here. Much of what is in this document is also in our laws. Sure, we have problems that conflict with this. I mean, we're still doing religious profiling. But it's sort of racial and religious profiling. Obviously, if you're a European Muslim, nobody's going to probably notice who you are. But yeah, this is it. Section F that I was talking about. Adopting measures to criminalize incitement to imminent violence based on religion or belief. We already have that here. So, Michelle Bachman and others like her are reading into this their fears. Their fears of being, well, in charge. Their fears of being the superior force. Their fears that other people's ideas and beliefs are going to be held up equal to theirs. And of course, the fear that they, in expressing their beliefs, are going to run afoul of the law. But we already have freedom of speech here in this country. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe our right to freedom of speech here is greater than anywhere else in the world. You're not going to go to jail for saying that you hate Muslims. You're not going to go to jail for saying that the Catholic Church is the whore of Rome. You're not going to go to jail for saying that all atheists are going to go to hell. You have the right to do that. What you don't have the right to do is to get people together with the torches and the pitchforks and go after these different people. Anyway, I just wanted to mention this because Bachman's at it again. And, well, she'll be at it as long as she's Bachman or drops dead. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.